Hey, what's up guys, it's Jake aka Tag, and today we're back at it again with a guide on how to master 2.6 HOG Rider. With the help of some of the best 2.6 players in the entire world, yersoncz, CZ, and Ian, we have come up with the ultimate deck guide for 2.6 HOG Rider. And if you guys enjoy this and want to see more videos just like this one in the future, make sure to let me know by saucing out a fat thumbs up on the video. This 2.6 HOG Rider cycle guide will give you pro tips and tricks on how to play every matchup correctly. So without further ado, let's get right into the matchups. No matter what matchup you're playing, you don't have to wait around at the start of the game. The best card to start off the game with is a HOG Rider, followed by an Ice Spirit, then Skeletons, Log, and then Ice Golem. Next, let's cover the Lava Hound Balloon matchup. If they start Lava Hound in the back, your best play is to punish opposite lane with a HOG Rider. One of Lava Hound's best answers to a HOG Rider will always be the Tombstone. And if they consistently place high tombstones, do not be afraid to cycle a Musketeer and snipe it. And if you're around even Elixir with your opponent and you want to cycle, you can always eliminate the tombstone with a fireball. If your opponent starts a Lava Hound push in the back and they don't have a tombstone on the map, they will have to respond to the HOG Rider in the opposite lane with units. When their units cross the river, you can deny all damage with the Musketeer that will finish them off and also target the Lava Hound immediately after. You then want to go in for a very high cannon to evade fireball value and to be able to pull the balloon off to the side. Then go for an Ice Spirit to slow down the balloon, and finally you fireball the Lava Hound as soon as it pops to hit all of the pups and the balloon at the same time. This is the ideal scenario when you're playing against a Lava Hound balloon deck. However, the most ideal situation isn't always possible. If you're not able to hit all the Lava Hound pups, don't worry, you'll still be fine if you hit the balloon back and make sure that the other tower is able to hit it. Notice with this placement of the cannon and the fireball, you knock the balloon into the range that the other tower can start to hit the balloon as well. With the fireball and the double towers shooting at the balloon will never get a hit. Lastly, in double Elixir, you can change up your defense, cycle 2 cannons, and pull the balloon straight to your king tower to activate it. This will catch a lot of your opponents off guard when you've been doing the same Lava Hound balloon defense, and then in double Elixir, when you can cycle the double cannons, they will be so sad. The one thing that never changes in these 3 defensive sequences is the Musketeer placement and the cannon placement. Always go for those high cannons. So if you destroy your opponent's tombstones, go for HOG Riders in the opposite lane as soon as you see a Lava Hound in the back, and then use one of these 3 defenses. Lava Hound balloon players will consistently get negative Elixir trades against you until the game is yours. Ideally, against Golem players, you want to be cycling your HOG Rider in the opposite lane as soon as you see a Golem in the back. However, that's not how Clash Royale works. Sometimes you have a bad hand, and in that situation, you want to be cycling a 1 Elixir cost card or a cannon in the middle. Also, by cycling cannons early in this situation, if they decide to lightning it or go in for a spell on it, like many of them will, then you can get back to another one and they won't have the spell for the next cannon. You have a fast cycle deck, they don't, they'll be a bit of a sad panda. Next up on defense, you want to cycle an Ice Golem in the back in the same lane as the Golem. You'll follow that up with a Musketeer next to your tower, but touching the edge of the arena. It is so important that you drop your Musketeer here so that it targets the support cards instead of targeting the Golem. In addition to that, this placement allows you to stop your opponent from getting spell value with their lightning, poison, or fireball. With this placement, they'll never be able to hit both the Musketeer and the cannon with any spell. The Ice Golem will be body blocking for the Musketeer, so the Musketeer's high damage per second will be able to finish off any cards that they drop behind their Golem. If your HOG Riders are struggling to break through, you can sometimes even support it with an Ice Golem in front of it or an Ice Spirit. But it's advised early on to go in for lone HOG Riders and save your Ice Golem for defense, because a lot of times Golem players just don't care about their towers and they go all in. In that case, your HOG Rider is going to get more than enough damage and you want that Ice Golem on defense anyway. The most important takeaway in this matchup is making sure that your Musketeer is actually targeting your opponent's supporting cards and protecting it with your Ice Golem. As long as you space out your cannon correctly and have your Musketeer prioritize your opponent's supporting cards, there is no chance that a Golem ever breaks through you in single Elixir. Overall, the Golem matchup is really easy if you play it this way and avoid spell value. Versus log bait decks, it's always a good idea to cycle HOG Riders. And if they don't have Inferno Tower in their log bait deck, or they don't have Inferno Tower in cycle, you can pay attention to their card cycle, know what they're going to drop, and make predictions. If you make a prediction log on your opponent's Goblin Gang, Rascals, or Goblins, and they don't have ability to pull your HOG Rider, you're going to get an insane amount of damage. And if you make a prediction on offense with your log, you can either use Skeletons plus Ice Spirit and Musketeer to combat the Goblin Barrel on offense, or you could just simply fireball it. Because you have a faster card cycle, no log bait deck should ever be able to outcycle your log unless you go in for prediction logs. So the majority of log bait decks are going to try to get all their damage with Princesses at the river. Make sure to know when they have Princess in cycle and drop your Ice Spirits or Ice Golem in the middle so then the Princess locks onto that instead of your tower. In double Elixir, it's imperative for you to start your Musketeers a couple tiles above your Princess tower. They won't be able to rocket your Musketeer, then you can go in for an Ice Golem and a HOG Rider right in front of the Musketeer to build a push that they'll have trouble defending. This is one of the best pushes that you can do in double Elixir because you give them no rocket value and you put on a lot of pressure. And in a lot of situations, this is the best way of applying pressure and stopping your opponent from spell cycling. As long as you predict Princesses and stop them from connecting to your tower, you'll have a convincing win against log bait. Versus Hog Rider Earthquake, it's generally beneficial for you to go same lane as your opponent. It's a really fun matchup to play because unlike most matchups, they have no way of punishing your musketeers when you cycle it close to your tower. You usually don't want to go in for lone Hog Riders in this matchup unless they don't have mini Pekka and cycle. Otherwise, they're able to go for a mini Pekka for a 4/4 elixir trade and deny all damage. Against Hog Rider Earthquake, contrary to popular belief, you want to drop your cannon in the same spot that you defend against any Hog Rider. On defense, you just cycle your musketeers same lane as their push and use an Ice Spirit or a log coupled with the cannon, and it denies all damage. Usually you want to use the Ice Spirit because it's 1 elixir cheaper, but if you don't have it, couple it with the log and they won't be able to get any value. And after defending, you'll have a musketeer counter pushing that you'll be able to drop an Ice Golem and a Hog Rider with. When you set up a push like that after they spent all of their elixir on offense, you are guaranteed damage on their tower. And in double elixir, if they try to defend with the mini Pekka, you can fireball the tower and the mini Pekka to blow it away so you get even more damage with your Hog Rider. One other key tip in this matchup is if they consistently go for preemptive earthquakes, you want to drop your cannon up a little bit higher so they miss it. However, if they drop their earthquake at the regular time, there is no chance that they ever get damage through your musketeer, cannon, plus Ice Spirit. If you just counter push with an Ice Golem and a Hog Rider in front of your musketeer that you defended with, you'll be winning this matchup every single time. You'll win this matchup by repeating that transaction of defending with cannon, musketeer, Ice Spirit, or log, and counter pushing with an Ice Golem and a Hog Rider. They'll get no damage on you, and you'll consistently get damage on their tower. Versus Sparky, make sure to go opposite lane so when they defend your Hog Rider, they don't get counter pushed in the lane that they want. After you deal with whatever your opponent counters your Hog Rider with, go in for a cannon in the middle. They'll usually go for a tank in front of their Sparky, and you'll be able to pull whatever they drop right to the middle. You can easily defend against Sparky in this situation when a musketeer is locked onto it by dropping an Ice Golem or an Ice Spirit to distract or a skeleton surround. In double elixir, one of the best ways of dealing with Sparky and getting tower damage in the lane that you want is cycling double fireballs. You fireball it first when it's started in the back and you hit the tower, and then as it's crossing the river, you'll be able to cycle back to another fireball and you'll be able to finish it off with a log and double fireball. This is one of the best ways of dealing with it because it can get super chaotic in double and triple elixir when there's a ton of units, and this is one of the best ways of getting damage because you'll be able to reliably get that fireball chip. Sparky is a mechanically intensive matchup, but it will get you a lot better as you continue to play it. It's also super satisfying to double fireball cycle and double elixir and make your opponent super sad because they'll never expect you to get back to 2 of them. When you reliably get those musketeers locked onto your opponent's Sparky and distract with cycle cards, you'll be winning this matchup in no time. Against Elixir Golem, your plan is to go opposite lane and cycle a whole bunch of logs and Ice Spirits at the river to get chip damage. When they start Elixir Golem in the back, your plan is to start an Ice Golem in the same lane followed up by a musketeer. If the musketeer does not split the Elixir Golem really quickly, make sure to go in for a cannon immediately in the middle. But if the musketeer does put in enough work, just go in for a log as soon as the Elixir Golem blob is in its second form around half HP. If you get that log timing down correctly, you'll be able to damage all of the Elixir Golemites and get maximum value. That's in a super ideal situation. Most times you'll have to drop that cannon because they'll spam a lot at you. But if they can't support that Elixir Golem too heavily, a musketeer plus log does wonders. And as long as your musketeer is spaced out and they can't get any chip damage on it, a fireball will never be able to kill it. Because you cycle musketeer early in this matchup, you'll always get back to a second one and you'll be able to stack multiple musketeers here. Because they have fireball and barb barrel, they'll never be able to kill your musketeer because the barb barrel doesn't reach that far. So as long as you protect your musketeer after they fireball it, you'll be able to stack as many as you want and have an amazing counter push. So it's super important to cycle that Ice Golem, then Musketeer in that order. Fireball the Magic Archers and Fireball plus log the Night Witches if you need to, and it'll be really difficult for the Elixir Golem player to break through you if you cycle your Musketeers and logs correctly. Versus Expo decks, it's really important to cycle as many Hog Riders as you can to hopefully catch them out of cycle with no Tesla in hand. When they go in for an Expo, there are many ways to defend it. You can go for an Ice Golem and a Hog Rider same lane as the Expo. You can Ice Golem in the middle opposite lane of the Expo so then the Expo targets that, then you can snipe the Expo with either a cannon or a Musketeer. Or if your opponent's setting up Expos in the same lane that you're going for, you can fireball and log it and hit the tower as well. The reason why you go Ice Golem tank opposite lane of the Expo is so it doesn't go immediately right into a Tesla planted at the river, or any archers or skeletons that your opponent's trying to block their Expo with. In double elixir, if your opponent doesn't have Expo in cycle and they split archers in the back, you can actually fireball one of the archers. And if your opponent does have a defensive Expo on the map, make sure to fireball it every single time. Otherwise, that defensive Expo will be able to give them so much value on the map over time. It will protect another offensive Expo that they'll be able to set up, or it will allow them to spell cycle you. 2.6 HOG Rider versus 2.9 Expo is all about the chip damage, so every second you can, make sure you're cycling logs on your opponent's tower or Ice Spirits at the river. On the graveyard itself, your best defensive sequence is going to be Cannon plus Log plus Ice Spirit or Musketeer plus Log. When you're defending against graveyard, make sure to wait 2 to 3 seconds for the maximum amount of skeletons to accumulate before you drop that Log. If you log too early, too many skeletons will accumulate afterward and you're going to take a lot more damage. If you're going for Hog Riders at the same time that your opponent's going in for graveyard pushes, quite often you'll catch them out of cycle with very little elixir. And if they're relying on a Tombstone, a Bomb Tower, or a Barb Hut and they don't have elixir for it, they just lose the game. One thing that I noticed that a lot of top 2.6 players do is they go in for Hog Rider on offense and block the Baby Dragon from crossing the river. And that allows your Princess Tower to target the skeletons instead of targeting the Baby Dragon. And they have to respond to the offensive Hog Rider, which drains a lot of elixir from them because the graveyard plus Baby Dragon is already 9. So if they're dropping a counter, let's say Tornado, that's another 3 elixir. So a poison at that point would cost them a total of 16 elixir. So that gives you a ton of extra time with the Musketeer on the map, giving you so much more value on defense. And if you don't have Hog Rider in cycle, you can drop an Ice Golem at the river to body block whatever's crossing, so then your Princess Tower will target the skeletons for an easy defense. If you play against Graveyard Barb Hut, make sure to go in for a Musketeer to snipe it if they drop the Barb Hut too high. And after you snipe it with a Musketeer, sometimes they'll drop the Barb Hut too low and you can go for a Hog Rider opposite lane to collect free damage. If you bypass it, a lot of times they'll drop an Electro Wizard on defense, which will be able to fireball with the Barb Hut and the tower and get a lot of value. One of the best plays that you can do against graveyard decks is to kill their tank as quickly as possible. So if they have an Ice Golem tanking for the graveyard, go for skeletons on top of it so your tower can retarget from the Ice Golem quickly back onto the graveyard skeletons. For the last bit of chip damage to finish off the game, sometimes you will have to Fireball cycle. And in those situations, most of the time it's better for you to save the Log on defense instead of going for Fireball plus Log cycle to finish off the game, because your opponent will just be able to go for a graveyard and you won't have anything to kill the clumped up graveyard skeletons on your tower. Versus giant decks with mini Pekka, it is super important to not go in for solo Hog Riders because they'll shut you down for an even elixir trade and no damage. When you know that your opponent's going to go for a mini Pekka on defense against your Hog Rider, you need to go in for an Ice Spirit with your Hog so that you can freeze the mini Pekka and guarantee a hit. The Ice Spirit with a Hog Rider is also going to be super beneficial if you outcycle your opponent's mini Pekka and you know that they're going to try to defend with bats. Much like the matchup against Elixir Golem and Golem, you want to cycle your Ice Golem in the back, followed up with the Musketeer in the same lane as the Giant. It's really nice to cycle your Ice Golem early so you can get back to another one for even more kites and getting back to your Musketeer for even more damage. The majority of players that struggle against beatdown decks don't cycle the correct cards, so if you cycle the Ice Golem and the Musketeer, you're going to be way more happy. Next up, we're going to be covering how to destroy Pekka bridge spam. The #1 rule is try to go in the opposite lane of your opponent in this matchup, because all of their Pekkas, Electro Wizards, and counter pushing units will be going towards your higher HP tower. This matchup is all about matching up your card cycle with your opponent's card cycle. Save your cannon for your opponent's battle ram so you always have something to pull it, and if you can, kite the Royale Ghost to the opposite lane with an Ice Golem for a +1 elixir trade. If you drop your skeletons here against a bandit, even if they zap, the bandit will walk towards your tower and it won't get a dash. If they Pekka against your Hog Rider or Pekka in the back, always start off your defense with a Musketeer. You want to defend Pekkas with just skeletons and Musketeers and then supplement other cards in depending on what they spam at you. And for extended trades on defense against Pekka spam players, if they poison your first Musketeer, you can always cycle back to another one since you cycled it first and they won't have poison in cycle for that. If you keep the correct card cycle and don't make many mechanical mistakes, Pekka bridge spam will be one of the easiest matchups for you. And lastly, let's break down some pro tips and tricks that will give you some juicy positive elixir trades. You can activate King Tower against Mega Knight by dropping skeletons and Ice Spirit in either order. However, the most reliable and easiest way of activating King Tower against Mega Knight is going to be dropping a cannon in the middle and then dropping an Ice Spirit right next to your King Tower. And against Mortar decks, you can activate King Tower with skeletons in the middle. And lastly, my favorite positive elixir trade is kiting a bandit to the opposite lane with a Hog Rider. The bandit doesn't even damage the Hog Rider and the Hog fully counters it, and your opponent has to respond on defense. And that's actually where we're going to end today's 2.6 Hog Rider deck guide. If you guys enjoyed this type of content, make sure to let me know by saucing out a fat thumbs up on the video, and if you're not already, subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Ian and yersoncz's Twitters will be down below in the description of the video. Make sure to go check them out. And I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone using creator code SirTag. Because of you guys using creator code SirTag, I've been able to upgrade my equipment and spend way more time on videos. And honestly, I just can't thank you guys enough. Thanks for watching. Thanks for chilling with me. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.